It was some point in the early part of the 90s that I moved to Southern California. I was doing it to follow up with some different job opportunities, including working with a company called Interplay. It was at Interplay that I met one Scott Bennie. Now, Scott Bennie was a writer and designer there. He's actually one of the key voices around the behind the original successes of the Fallout franchise. And turned out he'd gotten there because of a lot of great work he had done in other RPG areas, including early days with Champions, and of course a lot of work with Dungeons and Dragons for first and second edition, and then on forward from there. Really, primarily first and second edition. Scott's also a fantastic game designer for tabletop, as I said, great game master and storyteller, and I had the chance to game with him extensively and get to know him as a human being. And so it occurred to me I would like to celebrate my friendship with Scott by declaring this past week Scott Bennie Week and show off some of the cool things that he's contributed to the hobby and the industry so that you can enjoy some really great products done by a really great person. We're going to open up with one of the most well-known of the modules that his name is attached to, the World of Greyhawk module. Now this one is somewhat infamous because it was... A lot of people thought, was this done to spite Gary Gygax's original creation? But no, this was an all-star cast who thought, it would be fun to actually just go all in for the more humorous aspects of what dungeons represent. Crazy monster generators, weird puzzles, puntastic experiences, and traps, and all kinds of craziness there. Scott had a lot of fun working on this project, and it is one that a lot of people look back on with a great deal of fondness. The original text here, deep beneath the keep of Castle Greyhawk, a really nasty device is creating mutated, unpleasant monsters that are running wild throughout the castle in the 12-level dungeon beneath this. The call has gone out for heroic, fearless, and perhaps foolish adventurers to outhack, outslash, and sometimes even outthink hordes of domen, headless mice, manic bee queens, really bad dead things, burger men, crazed chefs, and movie moguls? Yeah, okay, so this is obviously done in a very fun, tongue-in-cheek sort of way. So if you don't take your dungeon delving too seriously, you really should take a look at this very well-known and very fun product that a lot of people do look back on with a great deal of fondness. Okay, so for Tuesday, we picked Testament. This is a product that Green Ronin took a big chance on just because this is the kind of subject material that people could be a little dicey about having it treated as fictional or game material. However, they picked the right person. Scott Bennie is a very living, breathing example of everything my mama taught me a Christian should be. Walks the walk, loves all, does not pass judgment, just wants a good world that is safe and loving for all. He knows his stuff, too, is this rather remarkable product attests to. So this book allows you to take the great monsters and heroes and ideas and concepts from the Bible itself and incorporate it into, at this point, your 3rd edition D&D game. Now, this was actually done for original 3.0, but is easily converted up to 3.5 or really any iteration of D&D there is. So this is a rather remarkable product. It is considered the best of anyone's attempt at interpreting biblical ideas and biblical concepts into gameable material. So next we get into the Wednesday pick, Atlas of Earth Prime Canada. And much of our celebration of Scott Bennie Week consists of superhero products because that's what Scott is best known for among many gaming fans. He and I share a love of the genre, and he adds both heart and expertise to every endeavor in this field. A patriotic Canadian, Scott ensures the Atlas of Earth Prime Canada is true and representative of his home country. Regardless of what system you're running, there's a lot of inspirational material that you can import into your own superhero game. Now, Scott also did some similar material for his work back in his days when he was doing a lot of Champions writing. So Champions of the North, for example. There was one he was the primary voice on. I think she was the sole voice on that one. But anyway, this is a more recent product that he did. And you can also find it in the compilation of all their Atlas of Earth Prime material. But this is Scott's specialty, superheroes and Canada. Now, the next day, we get into probably one of the more famous books he ever did as far as superhero fans are concerned, Viper. For most fans of his work, he cannot be celebrated without a major nod to his work on Champions, especially the 4th edition era. One of his most standout books is Viper, a complete presentation of the most impactful supercriminal organization in the entire setting. Not only does he do a brilliant job detailing and designing the various elements, he gives us all a book that serves as a blueprint for how to run a massive organization with world domination in mind and incredible tech with which to achieve it. Now, Viper is obviously a nod to, Cobra for G.I. Joe, I suppose we could say, and Hydra, which is a little bit closer to really Hydra of the Marvel Universe and that kind of thing. But the thing is, Scott went in and said, sure, it's a pastiche of these other ideas, but I'm going to make it stand out on its own. And he worked closely with Cliff Christensen to do that, and they presented a book that is internally consistent and powerful. And as I said, even if you're not playing 4th edition Champions, there's a lot of really cool material here that says this is what it means to have an organization with incredible resources and incredible tech, and what are they trying to do, and how do you make them compelling and interesting and a real threat to your superhero. So I highly recommend this as a great look into Scott's Champions 4th edition era work and just some of his best superhero work. However, his absolute best superhero work ever is Gestalt, the Hero Within. Now, I'm presenting the Mutants and Masterminds version here, and I really wish Blackworm had used bigger images for their covers. Pro tip, guys, if you are putting products up on DriveThruRPG and you want people like me to cover them, please use larger images. Don't put these little tiny images up. It's hard for us to show your stuff off if you don't give us good images to work with. So just a side note there. So arguably the best thing Scott has ever created, Gestalt, the Hero Within, is a superpowered universe with a very powerful and defining premise you'll likely have not seen expressed quite so well in any other setting. I had the pleasure of playing in this setting with Scott and a bunch of other great folks back when I lived in LA in the 90s. You'll see a reference to Special Agent Arthur Cromwell, aka Paladin, in the book That Was Me. And while I admit to being a bit thrown by the premise at first, it didn't take long for me to fall completely in love with it and realize just how brilliant a creator and storyteller Scott is. In the Gestalt universe, you're not just playing people with mythic and legendary abilities, you are literally playing myths and legends, either as a human that connects to the concept or as the concept made manifest spontaneously. Either way, your powers derive from the collective consciousness of the planet's sapient species. And I say it that way because it's entirely possible that you could be a Gestalt of dolphin concepts as opposed to human. So, I mean, it's anything that represents belief and will and collective consciousness, you could just become, the Gestalt of the color red, for some reason. You could be the Gestalt of anything, and you somehow have powers and abilities based on that. So anyway, this is really the epitome, for many of us, it is the epitome of Scott's vision as a storyteller, as a world builder, and as a game master. Now, this is, as I said, the one I presented here is the Mutants and Masterminds iteration, but there was also a Champions and Hero System version, which, frankly, I played in the Champions iteration. So that's the week celebrating Scott Bennie and his many works. So take a look at these and then follow through because, as I said, Scott is a brilliant writer and designer, and if you've not paid attention to his milieu of work, you should do so. If you have a suggestion for another writer and designer or creator in the games industry that you would like to see covered, you have a week's worth of stuff that we look at, drop me a line in the comments of the Sean'sPickOfTheDay.com site, or if you're friends with me on Facebook, let me know there. And thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week.